Hi, this is Logan, the guy that doesn't talk too much, and on this episode of Tech Talk Taco Tuesday, we talk about how we fight for viewers with the presidential debate, also motorcycle tie-downs, PDS versus Linkage. Mike from Taco Moto is here, and this is all available to you because of Rekluse. And they make auto clutches, manual clutches, left-hand rear brakes, and very good motor oils.
Live from Pahrump. It's Tuesday night, and that means it's Tech Talk Taco Tuesday. This is the dirt bike and dirt bike related product show where Logan asks the questions. I try to answer them. You guys write them in, whether you're writing them in on the chat room or sending questions in on YouTube comments, and who knows where they're going to come from on all these podcasts we're putting up. You can always email us the questions at jimmy@dirtbiketest.com. Might get you an answer, and we'll kind of run through our list. I'm going to go ahead and start reading the ones in the chat room off first because you guys are here. And George is he brought it up. He said he's got one ear in here and 14 others on the debate. T4 and one ear on T4. That's Tech Talk Taco Tuesday. That's our show. I look like 14 from here. Somebody's going to tell me to get my damn eyes checked, which a lot of people have been telling me lately. But right, well, we're way better than the debate because there's going to be no BS and lying here, or just the straight answers. Sid Mosley says, "Thank God, the most honest dude I've heard in this industry. Jimmy L, you are a beast." Am I a beast, Logan?
Yeah.
Why?
You don't lie?
Oh, that doesn't make you a beast. That makes you an honest person.
Yeah.
Yeah, beast is that the Triceratops, right? That's just the taco carrying dinosaur that we haven't utilized yet. Holds the sticker well. So this show wouldn't be possible with the help of an awesome company like KTM. Logan, what's KTM? And he's going to try to read it. You're supposed to have it memorized, dude.
Took me like a while to get the normal one.
Uh-huh. And this is your own words. So in your own words, what is KTM? The long, silent pause. That's great for radio.
They are based out of Mattinghofen, Austria, and North American headquarters in Murrieta, California. KTM has set the standards for motorcycle manufacturing and development. KTM has provided a ready-to-race mentality in every product it develops and every move it makes, and has been a fierce competitor on the racetracks around the world.
Dude, that's pretty good. That almost sounded like somebody professional wrote it. I mean, really. That'll be memorized by the end of the show, so you don't have to switch through the thing, because you might have missed a question.
They pop up usually.
We're also brought to you by Climb. Climb's a maker of really awesome motorcycle gear. I'm wearing a Climb t-shirt tonight. You're not. How's that feel? I was wearing Climb gear all weekend. It was good because it was actually, I was riding up in the mountains, and it was actually kind of warm during the day, but crazy humid for some reason. It was just, there was a lot of smoke and that, but vented gear was very, very welcome, and I'm ready to stop wearing vented gear. I'd like to get back into the temperatures where I need to wear gear that doesn't have holes and breathe so much. So good on Climb. They have some new colorways in their both Mojave and XC gear that they released a few weeks ago. So if you are looking for another set of gear, some new colorways, check out climb.com. And then, of course, there is, what's the other one, Logan?
Rekluse.
Yeah, you know that because that's what we were doing those reads for.
Yeah.
Yeah, Logan smarted off on the read. I don't know what he said. He said Rekluse is for old people like Jimmy.
Pretty much.
So I got a question. You're programming Bob's phone over here and all that stuff. Do you remember a time when there wasn't such a thing as a cell phone?
No.
Yeah, crazy. Crazy world. Yeah, hurry, Jimmy. The debate is driving me nuts. Take me away. We will, Tony. We'll take care of you. Sound is good, as everybody's saying. Thank you for checking us on that. Rodrigo Lope says, Jimmy, what have you heard of Rev Limiter Extreme last weekend? Can you comment, please? Well, since I haven't heard anything, I can't comment. I don't know. I was riding all weekend, and then when I came back into the digital sphere, I was taking calls from everybody that is telling me that that they think that our digital magazine is a really good idea, and they'd like to see how it goes before they get involved. You want to know where it goes when they don't get involved? It's a word. It's 4 letters. Starts with an A.
Astronomically?
Yeah, that's not 4 letters, boy. But that it goes astronomically. I'd love it to go astronomically. Away. It goes away if you don't get behind it. So no, I didn't really see any. Rodrigo, I didn't see any results or stuff. Maybe somebody can look at that. But and then Rodrigo also says my 2020 KTM 300 TPI is consuming 600 miles in 10 hours. TPI is
transmission. Yeah.
I took to the dealer and they fixed the power valve oil leak, and it did not resolve the oil consumption. Now I will take it to my mechanic to replace the crankshaft oil seal. Have you heard anything about this on 2020 bikes? Not particularly, but that's at least the right. They're going down the right path. But man, if it was using that much oil, it would be smoking quite a bit more than it should. If it is indeed going through the crank seal and into the combustion chamber. But I have not heard that. And every once in a while, there's a bike that'll do something like that. But I have not heard it. Dennis said something pretty interesting earlier. I marked it. Or I was going to make a comment about it. He's preferring the dirt bikes over debates up in Alaska. But I think he said he wanted a liberal's take on a conservative riding style. something to that effect, knowing full well that I like a conservative riding style. It means you can go riding the next day. And then Tristan says, did you see the new 30-second release video from Kawasaki? It has a few teasers on dual sports. Well, today Kawasaki released all of their 2021 bikes. So there's a full model range that came out today, and I didn't get to that email either. So, of course, awesome show prep here on top of all the news. But this isn't a news show. This is one where we answer kind of timeless questions, because I'm hoping that, and if you learned something on this show tonight, well, I'm sorry, but I'm not going to apologize that much, because you can go back and listen to older archived episodes of Tech Talk, and you're going to learn other things. And a lot of these questions are timeless. Sometimes they get repeated. I've been told sometimes to answer the questions differently, and not differently in like there's a different answer. It was just explained slightly in another way that allowed someone to fully grasp the concept. So something like PDS versus linkage, right? we were going over that, and I literally almost get confused when I start explaining it, because it's confusing to talk about the difference. But so don't ask that question right now. No, you can, because I've kind of remembered what I think. So what's the number one question tonight?
Hello. I really appreciate your knowledge, Jimmy. I own a 1985 XL350R.
You remember those when they first came out, Logan?
No.
Okay.
4,000 miles. It's in great condition. No rust, no dings. I really enjoy dual sport riding, but lately I've been hanging out with the GS Adventure Crew. I want to upgrade to something that I could do interstate rides. I've done them with the 350R, so I'm looking for 6-speed wide ratio bike. Maybe the 450 RL. My question to you is, should I sell the 350R? If so, is there any online sell/buy venues you know of for vintage enduro bikes? I'm sure I could get much more than I paid. I could keep the 350R and get a modern bike, 450RL or T7. Thank you in advance. Harlan Miller.
So Harlan, so the one thing he's talking about on that bike that's like a really standout is that 6-speed wide ratio transmission. I mean that I remember that bike for having that, I mean that was right when I was starting to ride big bikes, was about around that time. So if you're going riding with guys on GS Adventures, on that particular bike, almost anything you get will be like kind of an improvement, just because things have come a little ways in that 30 some odd years. I hate to do the math. The 450L, it doesn't have a 6-speed wide ratio transmission. It's 5-speed, pretty wide ratio transmission, and it gets the job done. I would, if you have the opportunity, ride a KTM 350, and you might just see, okay, here's the difference between that 350 and your 350, and then you have a kind of a baseline. But I'll tell you what, the one thing that you will not like about the KTM 350 is the transmission does not feel like a wide ratio, even though it's 6-speed. I bet you that old XL has a wider spread than the current KTM 350. Possibly, and especially since you're going with guys in bigger bikes, a KTM 500. Like I always go down that path. That'd be another one. Tenere 700 is a great bike. You got to decide though when you start talking about like this 450L or Tenere, the two bikes that you brought up. They're completely different bikes. Like you're talking about an adventure bike and you're talking about a kind of dual sport bike. And you got to ask yourself, am I going to go on single track trails? And the minute you say yes, don't look at an adventure bike. Just keep on the, keep on the smaller bike side. What other bike? Some of the betas have pretty good wide transmissions, I think. It's been a while since I've ridden one of their dual sport bikes. So yeah, a lot of options, but the upgrade that you're going to get, I mean, you do pick out a good point, but man, the bikes are going to be so much lighter. No Kickstarter. You're not going to have to kickstart it, and that bike was not exactly known for being an awesome starting machine. I wonder if it's dual carbs. Yeah, that's what 85 is dual. I think it might have been dual carbs. They were fine.
Like a 23-inch front wheel or something too.
No, that was 1981 was the 23-inch front wheel or something. So a little while. Okay, Harlan. Hopefully that helps.
Chris Smith said PDS versus Linkage. Explain with a emoji. Yes.
on the thing. Yeah, Chris, one has a linkage and the other one is a shock with a second piston inside of it that masks the linkage. Does that help? Think it's trolling? No, he actually asks pretty good questions. So I'll just quickly go over. I mean, what we need to do is when we're going through these podcasts, we need to find out which episodes when I really go and do a deep dive on something like that.
Yeah.
And you can always go back and look at the title screen and stuff, which will answer it. But if you're just talking like a KTM XCW versus XC or a KTM EXC versus KTM XC, like what is the difference? Well, probably my biggest thing is I don't like the linkage hanging down underneath the swing arm down low. And even I was riding a Beta 300 this weekend, and when we were goofing around shooting photos on logs, it was a couple times until I realized it was there, and I kind of had to modify the way I was hitting things. That linkage hooks up on stuff. So that's like just one thing that's aside from the way that the shock works. But when we were talking about it earlier, it's like you can kind of get away with more with a bike with a linkage as far as setup. It seems to be less picky about setup. But until you figure out what the linkage is doing and what the shock is doing, like, you know how people change links and they're always trying to adjust the way the bike works through the linkage. Until you kind of get that sort of figured out, it's always a little bit more complicated just to get a direct result. And I just find, like, with the PDS bikes, I'm just more connected. I can think what I want, that I can tune it really easily. It's not confusing. And then it just feels like, I feel like I can feel the rear tire better and the way it tracks the ground better. And it's just more, I don't know, it's just easier to use. Although if I'm out riding in the desert doing higher speed desert stuff, and then I go out into the trees in the woods, I will make some clicks. And then on the setup side, the PDS is hypersensitive to having the right spring, the right spring weight for the rider and getting the right amount of ride height. And you can't, like with a linkage bike, you can kind of have, you can get away with a lot where it's very critical on the PDS bikes, in my opinion. And then it makes it a little bit different. So, yeah, Marco says, let the good times roll. Is it rolling over the debate right now? Are we beating them? We got 37 people, so we're pretty close.
Hey, Jimmy.
Yes.
I've got some thoughts on the PDS and Link.
So Mike's here. Taco Mike's here in the house. He's going to come in and...
What's up, Moto Buddies?
He's going to chitter chatter at you. I can't... are you... Yeah, you're going to have to scoot over a little bit, Logan. Come this way. And
am I in?
It's all in here. Yeah. Oh. Yeah, so I'm going to give you some microphone there. Mike, go ahead.
Is this really a taco caddy?
Yeah, it's a taco caddy.
Dude, that is super badass. I totally dig that.
Is your mic on? Yeah, it's on.
I don't know. Are we on?
Yeah, you're on. Good.
That PDS, okay. So I've recently ridden, I have a 21. I bought a 21 KTM. It's a 500. And I took it up to Idaho when I was up there a week. And I rode that bike on the Rideho, Joe Smith, the Rideho, the Trail Network. It's kind of like the Tour of Idaho. It's sort of like a different version. It's a little more on the western side of the state.
Not familiar with it.
Okay, so it's the same trails for the most part, and it is, rugged Idaho. It's like gnarly, crazy single track in Idaho. And I rode that bike specifically, leaving the suspension exactly stock. I didn't do anything to it other than change some of the clickers. So I spent a week on the 500 with the PDS shock stock. And the forks seemed to work really well with that bike through some clicker manipulation and changing that and then sliding them up and down in the triple clamps. I got the forks feeling pretty good. Never got the PDS, the stock PDS shock rear end settled. Never liked it the whole time.
Okay, so I'm gonna work backwards here. So what was your ride height? Were you setting it at?
I think it was set up at like 108 on the sag. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you have any thoughts on whether that was
and then
sweet
so
spot?
what did that equate to? Because you're probably, I mean, I don't know what your weight is, but you're in the target
right in. Yeah.
So what was that? That sounds low to me to begin with, but what was the static? So the bike only?
Oh, I don't remember. I don't know.
But
I'm right in the weight range. So I weigh 170, and then with gear I was probably 185. I didn't pack that bike very heavy.
So when and the problem with the PDS is when it starts going down into the stroke, so being a little bit low on ride height, and 108 seems a little low for PDS
where
bike.
Would you at it? Maybe a 110?
104.
Oh, okay.
No, higher. Yeah,
I gotcha.
Yeah, up higher. And I don't know that they've changed it that much in their spec sheet and stuff.
Ones, yeah.
But once they start riding low, then all of a sudden they kind of get a little bit harsh. You don't get that very initial bump compliance, and then it also makes it hard to kind of tune the fork the same at the same time, because you're squatted down, so the fork is kind of hitting everything at a different angle. It's not putting the weight up on the fork. And you didn't have anything on the side of the bike, did you?
No, I ran it without any luggage.
Yeah, luggage or stuff in it. Yep.
Pretty minimal backpack. So there was that, and then I spent one day on a 20 Husky 501 with the linkage, and just both of these being stock. So a stock to stock comparison, the Husky felt a lot more smooth through. I mainly rode it in some whoops, some sand whoops, and some open desert stuff, and it felt smoother. It felt more trackable. It felt like it was more in control. And I talked to a guy today who kind of we sort of had this conversation about PDS or linkage, and then he is very fond of the tunability. And you talked about that. With the linkage, you get more angles, more degrees. There's more tunability to it.
On the
linkage.
If you the shock has a longer stroke.
Yeah.
So you get more shock to play with if you're actually going inside and kind of tuning it in there. But I've always been I've always been a fan of the I've liked the PDS even when a lot of people didn't, because it just seemed like it was more simple. I don't know, and especially if you're taking the shock on and off, then it's really simple. But just the whole kind of thing is a package. But you can just it's simple. The market will tell you that the linkage is better because everybody's got linkage. All the bikes have linkage. Everybody has linkage, So the PDS is kind of like this little unique thing, and I think it's having that second piston there and be able to kind of control when that thing kind of comes in and with the tapers and the needles and all that stuff, you could tune it as much
and mimic out what you get with the linkage.
I'm surprised that they haven't started putting PDS shocks running through linkages just to go to a whole nother level, but that would go through kind of through the roof. But then the PDS shock is heavier because the extra components and stuff, and it's a little more complicated and yeah, but it kind of just depends on what you want. And I like a really, really progressive build up, and a lot of times what they're doing with the linkage is kind of flattening out they're trying to make the curve less progressive. It just kind of depends on what you're doing, what you're set up. But anytime you have a problem with the PDS shock, make sure your ride height is proper, and even if it isn't the number, quote the number that the manufacturer says for sag, because I've seen people check their sag and they're sitting 3/4 of the way back on the seat, or they're they have someone balance them and they're doing this weird thing where they're not really,
they're not really sitting in their natural ride position.
Well, it's your most kind of balanced position is sort of where you should be. I always balance myself when I have the sag done, because I set myself on the bike in the exact same spot no matter which bike it is, and I use my calves to index myself on the bike in relation to the foot pegs. So I balance myself with my feet just outboard of the foot pegs, and they're hanging down. They're touching, the sides of my boot essentially are touching the foot pegs. So I'm sitting by that. I'm on the bike. The foot pegs would be the 0 point.
Yeah.
And so I'm on every bike exactly the same. So if I go back and do it again, I'm going to do it the same way. It's not some mystery about where I'm sitting. And some people say, well, if your weight's on the bike, yeah, but where on the bike? It's real important that
Did you say you're standing or sitting when you do that?
I'm sitting.
You're sitting when you set the sag.
Sitting, but my legs barely touch the ground, so I'm basically, my legs are almost straight, just kind of dangling down next to the foot pegs. So I'm just barely tippy-toeing, almost just kind of balancing, but I'm using the foot peg to index along my boot, so I'm always in the same spot.
Sure.
And I do it the same on every bike, and I sit straight up like I am now.
What do you use to do your sag? Do you use like an automatic, a digital? What is the one?
I don't know. I don't have no idea what that is.
Or do you have somebody else do that for you?
I don't even know what that thing is. I use a
Is it the Motion Pro?
I have a couple different things, but I actually have one that's an old what's the name of the company? ARC, it's a mechanical one that does the same thing, but you can do it by yourself.
Yeah.
Or you generally have to have two people to do it unless you have some sort of a tool that I've never ever I don't even know what that tool is.
That's a solo checker. I think there's a couple of different people that make and market something similar to that.
Yeah. Be nice to find out the one that the other brand, the other company.
Oh, is there?
I have a real interesting story about that.
Do you know the one I'm talking about?
I know exactly.
I can't think of the name.
Oh, I know exactly which one.
You know what I'm talking about. Okay.
Yeah, it'd be really nice that you can't remember it, because I can, and I wouldn't say it out loud.
Okay, so that.
But I don't remember it. But yeah, so before you do anything, and you listen to anybody. So you think
104 is about sweet spot on?
I don't know. For you, like I said, that's why I said, okay, 108. That sounds low to me. But if you're getting 108 and you're sitting on the back of the seat,
yeah,
that's probably fine. If you're getting 108 and you're all hunched up against the, like this on the handlebars, that's probably not good.
So it's super dependent.
It's your own number, and that's the thing. The manufacturer has a recommendation. And the recommendation is to kind of get you in the ballpark or get you close. If you go ride your bike and you say, I set it here, and you should know your number. That's why I asked. You should always know your number, because that's how you can go back and check. And even if you don't know your number, you know, hey, it felt like it was low in the rear. You can add some spring preload and change it. And then just count how many turns you did in the spring. And then when you do find, hey, this bike's working good, then you measure it. And guess what? That's your number. And then, but what's good to do is the way it comes. If it comes, and the thing with here's the thing with the PDS, when it's at its sag, it's supposed to be essentially like 35 millimeters of free sag.
Free sag.
That's really, really important. And just like, you know, if it doesn't have it, you know, if you set your sag and it tops out, you know, you've compressed your spring so much it doesn't have any free sag. That's bad. That means your spring's too soft. Or, you know, if it you know, you set your sag and it's really drooping down still, your spring's too stiff.
Weak.
Yeah.
No, too stiff?
Too
weak, I think,
did I say that backwards?
Yeah.
Probably.
That's all right. You got a bunch of tequila I see over there. Maybe.
I haven't had any.
Oh, boy.
On zero. I'm doing a detox. So this is a good story. My good riding buddy Dave, all weekend long, he's like, hey, Jimmy, have a beer. And I'm like, no, I'm good. And have a beer. And no. And then he's like, you know, if you wait 3 weeks, it's like a detox. I'm like, okay, I'll try that one. So
good on you.
I just looked down at my belly and it's just gigantic. It's bad.
Time to cut some stuff
Look
back.
at the photo. You see the photos. You can see it up there. It's like coming off the side and everything. It's well, when I hit 200, then I go on like emergency rations. And so I just doing the easy things first. And that was an easy one.
Well, that's good info on the PDS. And the last thing I'll say about that is rolling all those logs in Idaho, tons of down trees. The PDS with the straight undershot was so cake. I don't think we did have one or two linkage bikes. And I was watching one of the kids on the linkage bike. He had a SXF, and no, he had an XCF. So it was the 18-inch rear wheel motocross bike, and was getting hung up on all the log crossings. So where I was just rolling straight over him, he would like hit that linkage in the back.
Well, a good rider wouldn't let anything but his tires touch the log.
In the rear, yeah.
Both tires. That's all. You know, you're gonna kind of tap.
Bounce off the
a good rider would
and
tap it, and the next thing it touches is your rear tire. Good rider.
Yeah,
but most of those aren't that. So like usually it kind of goes up, hits the kind of the skid plate, slides along that, grabs the linkage, and then it impedes the process of the tire hitting the log.
Clearly, that's us.
But yeah, need to.
I should take a riding school. Do you know of any?
I don't know. The guy won't pay me. The riding school guy that I work for.
He doesn't advertise?
No. I should get a hat. Something like that.
Somebody else gave you a hat.
You know of any riding schools, Logan?
Chris Birch has one. I hear it's pretty good.
Yeah? It's in New Zealand.
You
It's
got to
a
go a
long drive.
long way for it.
Long drive. Drive right into the ocean before you get there. Okay. Do we have any other questions there? Let's hit the next one here.
I read the most recent article Trevor wrote on the YZ250 FX versus the KTM 250 XCF, and it was just what I was looking for. It brought me to think even more about what I was already contemplating. Do I go with the 2021 YZ250 FX or YZ250F for next year? I have recently relocated to Wyoming from Connecticut, where I raced the Nitra race series in the B class, and I currently ride a 2015 YZ250 FX. The terrain out here is obviously much different. Desert riding is a lot faster, and I'm finding the suspension on my bike to be way too soft.
Okay, hold on one second. Victor says, Bob, he says, put some Rotella on those damn door hinges. Keep going.
I am not a huge fan of the wide ratio transmission. The only thing I need is the 6th gear for wide open deserts section, but even then I'm not pinning out to 90 miles per hour. It's just nice not having to wring the bike's neck out in 5th gear. I raced in the Inya Kara Enduro last weekend, and even though the suspension was soft there, I'm 5'6", 170 pounds, no gear, and I'm 31 years old. I'm almost thinking the YZ250F may suit be better in Western conditions, as Trevor mentioned, due to the following: 5-speed close ratio transmission. I thought first gear was on the FX was almost useless. 10 pounds lighter motor suspension out of the box, which I think would be more suitable for faster desert riding and conditions. I would ride it for a while before deciding if I wanted a tuner to go through it.
So I'll just kind of, so Trevor just did a story on Dirt Bike Test where he raced at a works race. One day he rode his setup KTM 250 XCF, and the next day he rode our test YZ250FX that he also had Precision Concepts go through the suspension, do some work kind of to set it up for him. And he said he still needs to do some more setting with the Yamaha, but he's pretty happy with where they at. So he was just kind of doing a this is what he liked about this one, and this is what he didn't like, and then this is, so it was a really good compare and contrast, especially if you're thinking about those two bikes, because off-road wise, those are two really good, solid choices. But he does bring up, that a lot of guys are racing the motocross bikes, and I'm the guy sitting here going, man, they make the perfect bike for you, in the FX or the KTM XCF. Why would you go get the SX or the YZ250F? And that's what he says when he says just the F. He's talking about the YZ. And on the Yamaha, you're paying for it with the transmission, and because you don't have a low first gear. And in Grand Prix style races, unless they throw an enduro cross section in there, probably never going to use first gear. Did you ever use first gear at the works race? You rode the course.
Yeah. No, I did not use first gear.
No. So you're never. So at that point, that disadvantage goes away, and then he says maybe the motocross suspension would be better, and I think it'll be sprung better, like the spring rates are better, but the damping characteristic typically, and I'm trying to remember it's kind of funny because KTM does one thing and Yamaha does the opposite in their quote, their setup. And I think it has a lot to do with kind of the mid and high speed. I think I may be completely wrong here, but I remember talking to him, like one was actually going stiffer on one and lighter on the other, and vice versa for the other brand to get that quote off-road setting, which really does work for when you're like where it doesn't work is it's like on a jump face, on a really steep ramped jump face, you don't want XC suspension because the bike uses a lot of stroke, goes down deep into the stroke, and then it rebounds up, and so you end up kind of getting sprung up high. And it's that same stroke and movement that you get that allows the bike to soak up the bumps instead of getting jarred. And as fast as some of those guys are going now, they need stiff. It's really hard to make a setting for someone that's going to kind of trail ride or ride recreationally, and someone who's going to race, because it's completely different. I kind of talked about that when I did my ride test with the Beta this weekend. When I was doing, I'm going, this bike has a big wide range of what it's supposed to do, and it's hard to. And I think Beta's gone more with their suspension setting, more on the trail riding / maybe more extreme enduro side than, the competition, race side. And they make a RR race edition, or factory, what do they call theirs? Race editions.
Race, yeah.
That comes with the KYB fork as opposed to the Sachs, and then same shock, but set up a little bit different. And, So I think that caters more towards the racing side, but I haven't ridden it, so I can't specifically speak to that. So what does he say? I think it would be easier to get the suspension tuned down the road on the 250F motocross bike to get the bike to his liking. I really like the idea of a 5-speed transmission what are yours or maybe Trevor's thoughts of which direction to go? Do I get another FX and tune it to be more aggressive, or I do get a 250F and detune it to make it more desert race / enduro friendly? The good thing about the Yamaha in this sense is that power tuner. So you can make that bike into motor-wise almost into whatever you want. It'll do literally just about anything. And then the suspension, I think it's really a toss-up. I mean, as good as it is for everybody, it's never going to be that good for just you. It's like we're talking about with Mike. It's like yeah, you like the fork, but like the shock. I want to change. I want to do something with the shock. Well, that fork and shock combo is what KTM decided it was going to be the best for everybody, not you, or not me, or not Logan. But collectively between the three of us is probably a pretty good target.
Trying to throw a dart and hit everybody with it.
Right, and so yeah, in that sense, I think it's a tough. It's tough, but then like which one do you go with? And if you were asking me that question right now, I would go, besides that racing, the enduros and the desert racing, what else am I going to do with the bike? If I said trail riding, I would go FX. If I said go to the motocross track, I would go YZ.
I couldn't agree with you more on the power tune. So that's essentially the Athena Get app system, and that's fantastic.
Yep.
And so a lot of guys, we're spending $900, $899 to get that and to put that on our bikes as an aftermarket setup.
On a KTM.
So on a KTM or a Honda or something else, we're spending $899 to get what the Honda or what the Yamahas come with out of the box. So that is in and of itself almost a decision swinging feature as far as I'm concerned. Finding a good suspension tuner, I think you're right, and I agree. You're either coming up. You're either going stiffer on one bike and softer on another bike, but either way, you're like getting your checkbook out and you're slapping your wallet at your bike in some way.
Yeah, and it's funny because he just left the whole. Once he goes down, you realize he's talking Yamahas, and if you're going from a 2015 YZ250FX to the new one,
that's a huge jump.
You're gonna be really impressed with the suspension. It's gotten a lot better, but but when you're talking about Yamaha and KTM, it's like two different flavors of ice cream. They're different. Trevor does a pretty good job kind of explaining how the KTM's motor's a little bit more higher strung and all the stuff that you get from most of the tests when people ride them. But that's a pretty good analogy. So what do you say there?
Love the show. I can't stand that other guy.
I think he's talking about you, Mike.
Yeah,
please
make sure you put my name in there when you write these comments.
The other
like that.
Just another FYI, I've always been a fan of yours, and I'm thinking of getting down your way to attend a school in the future. Thanks, Dan.
Do you know anything about a school?
School? Is he going to sign up for that?
What kind of school? Crayons, the coloring school.
Oh, yeah. Color outside the lines?
Yeah, we color inside the lines. Victor says, hey, well, it's good that Victor, so Victor, you know what I did last night about 10 or 11 o'clock? Victor hooked me up with some cabinets out of a shop he was renovating. So Heather and I were, whoa, what was that, Logan? Did you have a little toot on the thing? Girls again?
Text, like, Logan, talk more.
Yeah, Victor hooked me up with some cabinets. So let's see. I'm working on fabricating a front wheel stand holder to transport my dirt bike on my trailer, only securing it at the tire and wheel, nothing else. Will this damage or misadjust? I think he says misadjust my forks or axle or forks. So back in the day, this is another Horst Leitner ATK thing. They had this ATK wheel chock that was a kind of a leverage thing that an eccentric cam, and you rolled your wheel into a chock, and it had a hook that went over the tire.
Awesome.
And I
can totally visualize it.
You'd swing it down,
that thing over,
and it would pull down on the tire, and it would squeeze the tire, and so the bike would be held up by its front wheel. Did you lose your pizza in my chair, Bob? Don't turn the massage chair on, because you're just going to massage pizza into your nice Hawaiian shirt. It's gonna be ugly.
You could do that as long as you didn't have that 23-inch Honda
right
wheel.
or you're running in
or
even some of those fatty tires, because they were kind of a tight fit, and it wasn't a big. We had those in our truck, and when I was younger, I won some at a race, and it seemed to work fine. But you know what? We always end up putting damn tie downs on the bikes because they would rock, and I don't know if that's probably the best. I know that wheel's supposed to take a lot of force, but I wonder if that, just that cranking, because you think about it, it's all the spokes, and I wouldn't worry so much about the axle. I'd more worried about just kind of the constant torque in a single position. Let's put it that way, because you're
leaky tire too.
The
slow leaky tire could be a problem.
Oh, if your tire loses tire pressure, that could
When
be.
you do that cam clamp you're talking about?
Slowly leak.
Yeah, Bob. Your mouth's full. What you do? Sign language. Sign language. Don't choke. It's okay. We'll turn the camera around.
Stand only lasts so many cycles of flopping around.
The stand does.
Yeah, they start breaking.
Oh, yeah. Have you had those
Velveteen.
before?
I had them.
Oh, you've had them before.
Yeah.
Where you had the aluminum ones, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So they made them out of steel in the beginning.
Right.
Then they went lightweight. Yeah. The steel ones lasted for a while.
And I ended up having to just use them as a chalk and then tie them.
Right. Yeah. So I don't know that it would cause too much of a damage, but I saw your bikes today, Victor. It's an XR600, and that's already putting plenty of stress on the front wheel. I don't think you want to clamp that front wheel down. It's got a spindly little axle and stuff.
What about these? So there's a company out of Canada, and I really like their stuff. It's called, I think it's called Bike Binders, and it's these little it made me think of this when you were talking about that eccentric cam for the front
Cams
wheel.
that pull down on the foot pegs.
You pull down the foot pegs, so you anchor mount these two little posts in your truck bed or in your trailer or whatever, and then it's got a chain, and you slip. It's very clever design. Look these up, Bike Binders, and it's got these little cups, and they fit over your foot pegs. You drop a pin down there to secure that. Boom, slam the cam, and then you're locked.
Yeah,
I think that, in my opinion, so far, that's the most clever, best system I've seen.
I've seen those. I've seen those before also, and not a lot of them. But I don't.
They're a little spendy.
I've never seen any bad things happen because of it.
Yeah.
But that's kind of like a lot of times that's a single bike setup too. Based on where your bike sits and where your foot pegs are, and if all of a sudden you're going to the track and you have two other bikes in there and that doesn't necessarily fit with your program, it's just those tend to be like specific to those things. In my truck I use this. It's called CCR. It's they make tie downs and racks. They make these bars, and they have bars for the vans and everything that has a indexing
For the front wheel.
point for the front wheel, and then really heavy
It's got
duty
some
things
eyelets for your straps.
for the tie downs and stuff. But what's really good is it reinforces the front bed of the truck, which is now made of like pretty much tinfoil these days.
Yeah.
And so that's always kind of been my setup, but I'm always transporting different kind of bikes at different angles and doing different things. So on the tie downs, So Risk Racing, they say, also makes one that hooks to the pegs.
Oh yeah, Risk has a whole
Stuff.
stuff like that. Mm-hmm. You know what's cool about the bike binders?
Yet
Oh,
again, it doesn't move around well.
well, let me say this about the little bike binders. I'm kind of a fan, so check it out. They've got these little.
I've had them.
They've got the little click things, and so in your trailer, if you put like one of those little D-track things, is that what it's called?
E-track.
E-track.
Yeah.
Now you can move that stuff around, and so you can.
Yeah, that's what like the
modular
Nissan. The
fitment.
Nissan comes stock with that kind of. A Nissan truck has like that kind of that you can kind of move the chocks around and stuff. But yeah,
We're
it's-
into this for a significant amount of money, and then the effort to put all that in. But if you're, if you've got some high-end bikes and you're a high-level kind of player, that might be the way you go.
yeah. Okay, what's our next one, Logan?
Hi, Jimmy. Really enjoyed Tech Talk Taco Tuesday podcast. Recently found them on iTunes, and I'm working my way through them. I ride a 2014 KTM 200 XCW gnarly with a Q Stealth.
Yep, that's made by this pipe brand that they think they're gonna. What was the comment? I think they're gonna wait and see how it goes. They're not really. Yeah, it's kind of like I'm not
About the
really.
magazine?
It's kind of like I'm not really talking about them. Kind of like they're waiting to. I don't know. So, anyways, go ahead.
Some letters maybe in there.
Yeah.
And ride slow technical single track in Ohio and
Kentucky.
Kentucky. Muck, clay, rocks, logs, creeks, etc. Stock gearing is 14 by 48 and generally ride in second gear using lots of clutch with occasional third/fourth in the open. My issue is when when doing a steep climb / obstacles and first gear. When I need more to get up a really steep hill / obstacle, I pop into first and invariably get on the pipe, spinning the rear wheel and losing traction / momentum. I'd like to try different gearing to allow me to stay in second. Looking at gearing charts shows the numbers but not recommendations. Would you recommend going down 1 tooth in the front sprocket or up 2 or 4 in the rear, or both? Is changing the front better than changing the rear, or no difference? Thanks, Doug.
From Waynesville, Ohio. So, Doug, so your setup sounds pretty good as far as you're getting the most as far as the your power with your. Nothing seems too funky there. So 1448, and you're thinking about going into a 1348 or 14. So in my world, 1 tooth in the front sprocket is usually 2.5 in the rear, is like roughly what it is if you work out the ratios. Somebody have a calculator, want to correct me on that? But anyways, it's usually like 1 tooth is 1 or 2 to 3 in the rear. But rarely would you do both. And a lot of times that ratio can be manipulated. You could literally, you can kind of change it around and kind of hover all around that. You could actually get up to a 15 and then go to a really big one in the rear, or you could go to a 12 with a smaller one in the rear. There's all these different ways to make this, to get that ideal ratio. But if you haven't tried gearing, you'd be really surprised at what 1 tooth will do. I mean, just a single tooth on the rear sprocket. Like a 1 tooth change in the front is pretty noticeable. I mean, it'll either tighten the gears up substantially or spread them out substantially if you were to go from that 14 to the 13. So I would actually just try, and the good thing about the KTM is that your axle blocks allow a 2-tooth change without changing your chain. So if it is, and I know from the Mike 200, the 1448, you could go to 1450 and just flip the axle block around, and you wouldn't even have to adjust the chain. And that might do what you need, because that bike has a 6-speed transmission, and you're only getting up into 4th gear in the open. You got a lot of, you can still gear it down quite a bit and not have to, you're going to get more use out of second. Like second will be lower. You'll find yourself probably between second and third, more so than second and then going down into first. But I would just give it a try just going to that 50 in the rear, and that'll probably help you out. You'll probably be able to do those hills in second gear. I would also recommend. Do you know anybody that does a riding school, Logan?
No.
Okay, yeah, because that could help too. Because the spinning is it's. I heard this one guy that does this riding school. It's all about balance and what?
Traction.
Right. Yeah, and that's usually traction is hooked up to your right wrist. So you can always get more by backing it off, which is really strange for most people. It's like, you just turn that wrist the wrong way and you get more traction and then you go faster. But those are sprockets, yeah.
I know. If he is going to change, should he change to these?
Yeah, those are good sprockets. DDC sprockets. I got to talk to him because I need a sprocket for my YZ125. Because I'm getting fat, I need to go up a tooth.
Any feedback on running aluminum sprocket versus a steel aluminum hybrid?
Well, that's a stainless steel. That's 100% stainless steel with a coating on it. I don't like working on my bikes that much, and I like stuff to last forever, so I tend to go with that. And they're pretty light. I mean, so that's the old school steel sprocket. So go find a Yamaha WR, and that's an old school steel sprocket. It's a big, and they actually, since the early days they were nice and flat. Now they actually, mill them down a little bit, and they're dished in the center.
This little taper profile in here is what you're talking about.
No.
Where you're talking about?
No, they actually from where the chain runs, it actually gets dished in and gets actually kind of narrow. But
I see what you're
there's a
saying.
couple different companies that make some interesting. Like, have you seen the Sunstar one? That looks like the it's got
walk around?
the wavy one because it doesn't need to have. They don't feel that you need to have the thick tooth. And on the doesn't need to have that big wide tooth to
So
spread the
weight
load.
to carry all that weight. Do you think that they're doing that also to like shed mud so that you have
Yes.
less compression
And
of
it makes
mud in there?
like go ride in wet sand, and when you're riding in wet sand, you hear the chain go pop 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 pop, because it's
Yeah.
like loading up and popping. The Sunstar sprockets don't do that.
It just
that
sheds
that
it
wavy
out.
one, if I were riding in mud, a lot of it, and sand, especially sand, like sand with little rocks in it, that would definitely be a consideration. Those are I don't even know what they call that particular sprocket, but it's an interesting looking one. And I ran one for a long, long time to see if it did any adverse wear on the chain, and it didn't. But I was also told that you want to make sure, because they kind of move around, they alternate. And somebody had mentioned that if you have
you forgot the math formula.
if you have an even number sprocket,
Yeah.
and you have an even number of chain links, it would always come around
Same
and
spot.
hit the same. If that even number, if it wasn't
Staggered by one.
Yeah, staggered. However they do it, but I didn't notice any adverse chain wear from that at all. But so gearing. Yeah, I wrote that down as a note. Logan, so gearing, bike tie downs. What was the first thing we talked about? PDS.
Yeah.
Got it.
What do you think, really quick? What do you think about running a bigger rear sprocket versus smaller with unsprung weight, going to a bigger rear sprocket versus a smaller one, so that you get a little extended chain life? Otherwise, say like a 13, that chain is going around many more revolutions, and so you get a little more chain wear with the smaller front versus the bigger rear.
It's
think it's kinda
not
negligible with all that?
negligible, not really a factor. The biggest thing that I did notice when I did some testing with different gearing was the effect it has on the suspension, so the chain torque. When you start putting them, on a smaller front and a bigger rear, for instance, or a smaller rear and a bigger front, it changes the angle of the
dynamics
chain.
of that?
And it definitely was noticeable. It's like when for me, when it was the big sprocket in the back, like when you like if you over jump something and you would gas it, you rev it it seemed like it made a bigger difference. Now I don't know if that was because the gearing changed and allowed the bike to pull better when you were like over jumping something.
So would you get some torque lift, some ass end lift?
It just seemed like it would stiffen up the suspension better.
It does.
Yeah, in the physics of it. Yeah,
Makes it go like that.
yeah. So
Now, what about extending the wheelbase?
because I didn't know when we did that test, I didn't know what we were doing. I noticed that, and then they told me what we did, and I'm like, oh, interesting.
That's why when the Honda raced two strokes, like in Supercross, they had the biggest front sprocket and the biggest rear sprocket they get to reduce the chain torque.
Yeah.
What about like wheelbase? Because I noticed like you were talking about, when I change front and rear and then I flip the block around and I gain a little or decrease a little bit of the wheelbase, that's something you can feel, especially in the tight single track stuff. So just that little, and we're talking millimeters,
Yeah.
but that's something you can
How do you
feel.
feel it?
Yeah.
So if you shorten the wheelbase, you're like a Suzuki Samurai versus like a Suburban.
Oh,
You just gain a
yeah.
little more authority with that, like
I'm talking about,
turn in.
I'm talking about
Change
the
the
chain
sag
torque.
too.
Oh, I don't notice it like when
Yeah,
it
when
goes
you change
farther
the
back.
wheelbase,
It's when you go to a substantially bigger or smaller sprocket. So you kind of change that. You should start to change that triangle. But yeah, okay. Next question, Logan.
Todd Kelly says chain slap. Sometimes I can't tune it out. Any possible cause?
Chain slap. On what bike?
Definitely a KTM.
It's a KTM. Well, no, the Beta has a lot of chain slap too.
Oh, for real?
But when I was riding out, actually, my buddy Dave pulled over a couple times, like, "Hey, what's this? What's this?" He's a picky guy. He's like, "What's that noise?" I'm like, "Chain slap." It's like, just when you're kind of like a gear high, just lugging, it's just going.
It's just walking
Yeah,
across the top of the slider.
just slapping down onto it. So I don't know that. It's funny because some of the manufacturers actually run softer chain guides and chain sliders because of the noise. I know on dual sport bikes they do, but even Kawasaki runs kind of because you put a TM Design Works chain sliding guide kit on a KX450. and it's just all of a sudden like, what's that noise? Because the chain's hitting something
very hard
that's a little bit
material.
Yeah, a little bit harder.
Wears
and
longer.
And it says it's on a WR450F. So how worn out is the chain? Because some chain slap is up and down, like we're talking about fresh bike, and it's just that up and down chain slap onto the chain slider, or hitting the chain roller if there's a roller, or up on the bottom part of the swing arm. But sometimes when your chain getting pretty worn out, it goes side to side. And I've seen it start hitting and sawing on the subframes. I've seen them going over and start tapping on those things, or it runs in and kind of hits the tire. And then when the knob of the tire actually grabs the chain, sometimes on decel, it flings it, and then it really makes a nice loud noise. So lots
or on
of
KTMs, it starts eating into the kickstand, chewing into the side of the kickstand.
Yeah. How about cam chain slap? Okay.
I think Bob's got something.
Bob has a question.
When you hear a real violent chain slap, that's the natural frequency of the motor coupling with the natural frequency of the chain, and the chain is reacting to it.
Right.
And
Every torque
it's not
pulse.
a slap. It's not a slap. It's a.
It's the chain. Is it the chain only making the noise?
The chain is fluttering.
Okay, so the noise is coming 100% from the chain, you're saying, without hitting the pads?
No, it is.
Oh, it is hitting the pads. Yeah, exactly.
Hitting the
Yeah.
pads.
That's what I would think.
And more pronounced on a 4-stroke than 2-stroke, because you have you with the
frequency's
2-stroke
lower.
frequency's lower on the 4-stroke than the 2-stroke.
Yeah, sometimes.
So you can hear that torque pulse
sometimes.
of the chain.
What's our next guy there?
Rich Reynolds. Guys, thanks for the great review. One thing, can you please share the taller seat you mentioned in your review? I will want to get one when I pick up my new YZ450F.
So it's a GYTR. GYTR. Now I'm being dyslexic. GYTR. Genuine Yamaha
Yeah.
T and R. Yeah, I used to know
Technology?
Yeah, I used to know that.
Yeah. Genuine Yamaha Technology. GYTR. Something like that.
The Google notes.
Somebody
are you
will.
looking it up?
Somebody will.
Oh, wow.
Logan usually does, but I got him so busy here reading the questions he can't even translate. We don't have any foreign. We don't have any foreign questions.
Somebody's gonna be commenting.
It's because everybody in the world is watching the debate right now, except for the 33 people that are watching us right here, and that means the whole world. So we don't have any of our international crowd here. Hazy see, I get the hard name.
Matthew.
Hazy
Matthias.
Matthias. Awesome review. I saw this bike a couple days ago and I was interested in it. He's talking about the KTM 390. I started researching it and this is the best review I found. Well, of course it is. You're on Dirt Bike Test.
Uh-huh.
I had a dirt bike as a kid and a street bike in my 20s, in my 40s, and now I live in the North Carolina mountains. I'm looking for an entry-level dual sport and this bike sounds perfect. I think it's perfect, but you should say entry-level adventure bike / dual sport, because it's the KTM 390 is I hope he's talking about the KTM 390. I'm pretty sure he was. I didn't put the note there because there was another.
I don't think he would be talking about the Tenere 700.
No, he wasn't talking about
No.
the Tenere. It was either that or the Husky 501. But the reason I wanted to run the next question. It was, where's the one?
I think it's the Husky, because this guy always talks about this guy.
Oh,
I don't
he's
know
always
if they're
talking about Huskies?
usually.
I'm looking for the guy that said don't call it a beginner bike or don't call it an entry-level bike. Is that question in here? I think that might have been that same guy. And he was really upset that we were calling the KTM 390 an entry-level bike, which it kind of is. But it's funny because as guys get more, we'll call them seasoned, worn out, old, you realize I don't need all that stuff that the bikes are providing. I don't need that horsepower. I don't need that suspension travel. I'm just kind of using this motorcycle to go kind of cool places. I'm not. And that rider fits in pretty good with the entry level / specifications. You don't need that much, even though you might know that, hey, this isn't, a really high performance bike, but it's all the bike that I need. And we have to describe it as an entry level bike because that's what it was designed to be. Because I don't think that they would sell that many if they said, this is for our older continuation riders and all this stuff. It's like, it just so happens that bike has, multi-purposes. And what did my mom used to tell me? Sticks and stones will break your bones, but names will never hurt me. Like, who cares what they call your bike? If you're happy with it, it's your bike, it's good. Get on it.
NVMC rider. Jimmy, you are a walking encyclopedia of dirt bikes, and you have a ton of insight. It would be cool if you would show at what time marks of the video you talk about different topics, like a table of contents. Keep up with the great content.
Encyclopedia. What's that? Do you know what an encyclopedia is, Logan?
Encyclopedia Brown, that little kid detective.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I said, yeah, come on over. You can do that anytime. You can do that for us. It's easy, right, Logan? When you could put those little chapter tabs and stuff. Whenever we switch topics, like these topics I'm writing down here.
Yeah.
You could just put it on there, no problem, right?
None of that takes work.
You'll get right to it. It's no work. It's just like magic. It just happens. I would be mean if I said if I was looking for an example, so I went to your page and saw your videos where you did that. No, yeah, we're working the level. We're working the level we're getting paid to right now. See, right here, this is the one. Yeah, I saw it.
Adventure Matt.
Mm-hmm.
I am a little late to your podcast. I echo your thoughts on journalism reviews. They are awful. Every bike is the best ever, and there is never anything wrong with it. That it's the same in the mountain bike world. Honest reviews are hard to find, and negative reviews get crucified. I enjoy listening to you on Adventure Rider Radio.
Oh, yeah, okay. No, that wasn't the question. So, yeah, thanks, Matt. So he's talking, I've been on Adventure Rider Radio a few times, talking about adventure bikes and riding tips and all kinds of cool stuff. If you're looking for another really awesome podcast on the adventure side, if we start talking about like all these motocross and off-road bikes and you're like, that's not me, then go over to Adventure Rider Radio and they have a whole, they'll talk your ear off in an adventure world when we start going down a race bike stuff, because Logan wants to talk about is KTM 125s, right?
Sure.
How's yours running?
Pretty good.
Yeah. Who jetted it?
No one yet.
No one. You got to learn how to do that. I told you it's free. Just bring it over. Next one.
Paul Van Hout. You can send ad hoc message using the InReach Mini as well. Cumberstone, but doable.
I think it says
doable through the phone app.
Oh, first, Paul, you got to learn how to type. No, it's not that bad.
He's messaging through the InReach app.
Yeah,
That's
he's probably
problem.
using it. So we on the last show we were talking about the different apps, and I told him I don't use the little InReach Minis because you need to use your phone for the most part to send messages. Like if you wanted to text somebody something specific about what was going on or whatever, you kind of need your phone to be charged and be able to sync with your Mini, and it's just one extra thing that can go wrong. And I think there is a way to kind of like scroll through it, but it's probably worse than texting on an old flip phone or watching Bob do it, which would be even worse. So yeah, it's close, getting close to 8,000 YouTube subscribers. So by the time this one goes up, I'm hoping we're there. Should we have a contest to try to guess the name of the 8,000th YouTube subscriber?
Chris Birch.
No, I'm going with what was your girlfriend's name from last show? She sent you the hearts.
Maria something.
No, Maria's the one that you're supposed to get back to about the advertising program.
No, there's two Marias.
From the law. Oh, really?
Yeah.
You following all that stuff, huh, Logan? You better watch out for this
Check
one.
his phone. Watch his phone. Look at, read his text.
Okay. What does John Harp want to know?
Great review, and I've watched several. However, I've grown tired of everybody saying repeatedly that
This is the question.
an entry-level bike. I'm 45 and I've owned several bikes, and I would consider this a more than capable and fun bike for someone looking for the best of on and off-road. We have become obsessed with bigger is better and can't disagree more.
Okay, thank God he said good review, or I would have gone mad on the guy. But so KTM's new slogan is more capable and fun for someone looking for the best. No, is that the right one? I don't know. So yeah, just like I said a few minutes ago, I sometimes the criteria for one thing suits another, and don't be intimidated that maybe an entry level bike is the best bike for you, and it's not because you're an entry level rider, it's just because it tends to work. Texting your girlfriend back. What time she needs you? What time are you supposed to call her, Logan?
Oh, I'm talking to Tony Reeves on the chat.
Yeah. Okay, next one.
Less Death
Less
69.
death. Yeah.
Jimmy, for typical trail riding, is there a significant difference in durability between the 250 and 450 four-stroke? For example, between a CRF 450X and a CRF 250 RX.
It's funny. He just asked you about that question.
Yeah.
And we just hit it.
He really wanted that to be asked.
That was perfect timing.
Definitely wanted that question.
Well, you answer it then. What do you think?
I gotta admit, I wasn't totally paying attention because you talked about a Honda, so I was thinking.
Did we put you to? But the more important question is: were you getting put to sleep?
You know what I was thinking about was the previous question about the InReach. So when we were in Idaho, I used a new device called the Zoleo. Have you heard of this little thing?
I have not. I mentioned you did bring it up during our last week's discussion. So less death. You're gonna have to die a little bit. You're gonna have to die a little bit longer.
It's Less Death 69.
Yeah.
I forgot to mention that part.
I address him as death.
Do you know
Just,
do you know
death.
Beth?
No, I don't know. No, but it did death.
That's a great handle.
So okay, back to this thing you're talking about.
Yeah, the little deal. And that is a very valid point that you brought up. The fact that now you have a device that has it's a dead front. So this little Zoleo bug thing, this device, there's no user input other than the SOS button. So there's two buttons. Is there the stat? So the like I'm okay status you have to do through the app. The SOS mission critical button, that's a hard press button. You know, the 3-second push and hold. And then there is no user interface, so you cannot do any texting from the device. You have to have a working phone. So if you lose your phone, if your phone goes down for whatever reason, it's worthless to you. But the advantage of the Zoleo thing is instantaneous texting, very seamless, and so you can maintain this very fluid text conversation with about a 15-second up and down link.
That's the same. That's the same as an InReach. So what satellite network is it on?
It's the Iridium, I think.
Okay, yeah. So and then what's the monthly cost?
Cheap. I think it's $28 or something.
Okay, so it's comparable. Yeah, for 10-minute tracking.
So it doesn't do tracking.
Oh, it doesn't do tracking.
It doesn't do pinging. Doesn't do breadcrumbs.
And then how many? Is it a limited amount of texts, or?
Yeah. So it just depends on like whatever you spend. So the plan, it's 1,000. I think I have a plan with 1,000.
1,000 texts.
Yeah.
Okay, just
per
total.
Month.
Oh, per month.
Per
Okay.
month.
Yeah. So no tracking, and then because it depends on how you're using it. You know, like because I ride alone a lot. It's very important that someone that's watching me remotely. Because it's like I'm riding with somebody, they're just not there. They're watching me remotely. It's very important that tracking keeps moving.
Breadcrumbs.
It has to keep moving. If it stops moving for more than 30 minutes, and I don't put an OK, and it's not someplace that's a popular location, there's a problem. They all of a sudden start activating. They try to text me through the thing, but because if you're stopped, you would probably hear it beep and whatever, but. If it doesn't move, there's something wrong. There's a reason why it's not moving, and I haven't said it's okay. So that's why the tracking becomes kind of important in our world. Because if you're knocked out by yourself,
You're not pressing the button.
Yeah, I mean, they'll see that it's not moving, and they'll just expect that they can send you a text message, same sort of thing. But if they can't see that you're not moving because your tracking stops, they don't, or because you don't have tracking. So tracking is pretty important. Yeah. Okay, let's get to Les Death. He's probably got to get back to that presidential debate. He's probably throwing just devil horns.
So I think he's just basically asking, is there any long-term durability difference between a 250 and a 450? You could say the same thing, a 350 and a 500. Those smaller motors are just working harder. So it depends on who you are as a rider, how much you're like loading the bike, what kind of, is this trail riding? So he talks about trail riding.
So in my world, you could have stopped. It says it depends on who you are as a rider.
Yeah, who you are as a rider.
And that goes in so far as your maintenance schedule, and so I can see, and I have seen, the exact same bike, one last 500 hours and one last 25 hours.
Yeah, right.
And it was 100% the rider.
The rider.
And whether the rider decided not to fix the air filter properly, or the rider liked to downshift while landing off of jumps in the air and run it into the rev limiter that didn't exist because
it's a 250 motocross bike.
Two downshifts in the air when you're landing going into a turn will do that kind of stuff. So there's lots of different ways to make your to choose your durability, let's say. But I don't think like I mean, I'm probably at the limit of like what a 125 can take. Me riding it hard. I mean, like, and I probably would have to rebuild it sooner than like if Logan were riding a 125. But that's based on a small engine being kind of stressed. And I noticed that bike kind of wearing it. I can feel it like losing power and stuff. But on the 254 strokes, not so much. And even bikes like the KTM 250 XE, I think it's the one he's kind of talking about. Is that what he was kind of?
I think he's comparing the Honda. So like
it's a Honda 250 versus
250
like
RX versus a 450X.
Okay, so
that's not totally an apples to apples comparison.
Okay, so yeah, because the RX is very, very race oriented,
super high strung.
Yeah, and the X is more like built off the L, which has a lot more durability stuff built into it. So for sure, in those two bikes, the 450 will last longer than the 250, all things being equal. Now, if we're 250X versus 450X, then it's more of a kind of it's a more of a toss up. Yeah, the 250 might wear because it is probably spinning more RPM, being strained harder most of the time, but you just never know.
If you looked at the KTM, so do a comparison there, the motocross bikes on the KTM side are going to have lighter flywheel, lighter clutch. They have springs, the 6-spring plate instead of the DDS clutch with the dampers in there. And then, like we were talking outside earlier, on the enduro bike, so the enduro would have that like heavier duty clutch. It's going to weigh more, and then there's dampening inside the clutch basket itself. And the rev limit on that enduro bike is going to be less, held down at like 9,500, whereas if it was the motocross bike, that thing's going to sign off at what, like 11, were you saying? Like 11,000?
Oh, dude, they ran to 13.
13, okay. So, these are different machines that are really like for very different purposes, and the durability is inherent to like an enduro bike. They're just built with that durability in mind. And like
I don't really think, when you start taking them apart, we took apart Trevor's 250 XC a few weeks ago here, and I looked inside of it. It looks exactly like, and you look at it internally, it looks exactly like my 350, where they have the oil jet spraying, all this stuff. And I think they've just found that the stuff that they do to get their super high performance stuff to live is the same stuff you would do to get long life out of something that maybe isn't going to be stressed, as much. So I think it would be a lot easier. And this is kind of proven because I remember when we first started coming back racing 4-strokes in the late 90s, when this 4-stroke racing thing took off, when there was like a 4-stroke nationals, and there was so we were taking trail bikes like XR 400s and modifying them to be race bikes. And there's these weird brands like there's one that starts with an H. Oh, it's Husky. And then there was there was CCM that was using a giant. You got your finger ready, right?
Yeah.
I want Bob to struggle. It's just not going to come. I do have a really good one though. So there was brands like CCM that was using this giant ass Rotax motor inside of it. You know, so you're taking essentially, whether it was a trail bike or a farm implement, or you're trying to build this exotic thing and bring it in. These things are breaking all the time, and it was way easier when all of a sudden someone built, you know, Yamaha and KTM built these competition motors, and now you've seen those motors work their way back down into the, you know, dual sport / trail riding / it's way easier to start with something that was built to be run ridiculously hard and then kind of detune it essentially, but keep the durability stuff in, as opposed to taking, you know, something that wasn't designed for it and then pushing it kind of to the limit. Yeah.
Another thought I was just thinking about, you were talking about the oil jets, like for example, the 250, 350 KTM, there is an oil jet spraying oil into the alternator to cool the alternator. And so there, I think what's maybe a better comparison is the newer, more modern designs are more, the manufacturers are really designing in a lot of I don't want to use the word fail-safe, but a lot of this durability. So spraying oil in the alternators, that's nice. That's an upgrade.
As long as you haven't tried to ignite your oil via your clutch. Turning your oil into molten whatever it is, because then you can transfer heat into your ignition through those little jets.
Isn't there a product though that we could put on our bikes that would like keep oil temps as low as possible?
Yeah, it's not slip the clutch. Yeah, it comes right through these two fingers usually.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Well, let's say I don't have the talent to do that. Isn't there something I could install?
Go to
on
a
my
riding
bike?
school.
Yes. Isn't there a sponsor that makes something that I could put on my bike?
Oh, you're trying to get me to say Rekluse.
I don't know. I heard of something out there.
No, just
plug in the sponsors.
Yeah, no, I do that too every once in a while. Yeah, you can get the Rekluse to do all the clutching for you. We'll talk about it in the read before and after the podcast, right, Logan?
In Rekluse?
Yeah. He's confused now. He was sleeping.
Yeah.
Were you sleeping?
No.
If you're sleeping with your eyes open, it's okay because nobody will know. Like Bob actually falls asleep. Did it hurt?
On the PC 250 Supercross bikes,
Yes.
they run little oil coolers on them. Do they run them on the big bikes?
Some like Kawasaki, I know on the outdoor national bikes, they were running oil coolers.
I was just wondering. That's
On them, there's a cooler that just rides right behind the radiator. Just kind of sits on the back of the radiator. I don't know. I haven't looked at the bikes a lot lately, but yeah, as long as that oil is oil temperature, that's a good thing to shoot that thing there. But yeah. How did we get? Oh, just talking about the durability of the different size bikes. Yeah, they're getting smarter with it. I mean, before they just expected the oil to just kind of float around there magically and hit all the spots,
Just bounce around.
and now they spray it at stuff and to put it in the right area to make sure that things don't dry out. And you look at all those oil jets inside of some of the 4-stroke 250 4-stroke heads and where they're shooting into the cams and then the rockers and all the different stuff. It's ingenious.
Here's a little pro tip. If you're doing a valve adjustment on your bike or you've got your side cover off your clutch and you see those little brass jets, so you see these little things that are like little oil squirters. You may not know what they are. They're these little squirters. Just pull your spark plug, disable your ignition, crank your bike. You would do well to make sure you can see oil coming out of all those little squirters. And if not, definitely pull one of those off and then run a wire through it, because there are plenty of guys who melt different components of their engine or are wearing their motor out because they've got one of those little jets that's not spraying out oil.
In all of my time, the only time I've seen that be a problem is when the bike was brand new, and then usually something bad happens because of it, or after a rebuild when somebody gets a little bit of silicone. They're like, I'm gonna put silicone on this, and they put silicone on it. Yeah, and then it's in, like, because they pump, like, a lot of times the oil channels are in the cylinder studs, or they're when you put something that's like an extra sealant on something, and it goes in one of those little channels that you don't realize is an oil channel, and it blows up there, and then it can plug that kind of stuff up. So be kind of careful with that when you're doing if you're doing rebuilds and stuff. But yeah, usually your motor will tell you in a bad way when one of those jets is plugged up, but it's very rare, because if you don't have any contaminants inside of the system, imagine it's like getting dirt behind your fuel filter. If you take your fuel filter out and put dirt in and put the fuel filter back in, that dirt's in a bad spot and it's going to do bad things. Well, same thing with these oil channels, because your oil filters in the motor, the screens and the oil filter, that oil has to go through that before it gets into the the system where the jets and stuff are. But
Yeah, there's a vulnerability though when you change your oil and you pull that oil filter out, you get some dirt or debris or some little boogers that fall into that chamber, and there might be a chance that it could get sucked up into the passage every now and then. So I'll do a lot of valve checks, and I always crank the motor, looking at those oil jets, and every now and then, maybe 1 in 20 bikes or so, there'll either be a jet that's plugged or it's not quite getting out full potential. So just run a wire in there.
yeah, I've never in all the time I've done that, I've never done that. But then again, I haven't had a failure in that way either. So yeah, it's something to pay attention to.
Boy, Bob
Yeah,
was
Bob.
like trying to flag
So
a taxi over there.
The wet clutch bikes can't run the really good exotic oils that lubricate very well at high temperatures. That's the other problem.
Yeah, because a clutch requires a different kind of. Yeah, I had a discussion with that about somebody yesterday. We were talking about. He was having some clutch issues, and he switched oil, and it made a huge difference. And he went from here we go, we're gonna ignite a fire. He was using Rotella, and he switched over to Motorex. And these are the brands he told me, and he noticed a big difference in his clutch fade and clutch feel, which I found it interesting because I've never noticed that, because I've run both of those brands before and not noticed anything there. But he might be doing something a little bit different with the clutch, and but it was on a 2-stroke, and I suggested maybe you should try a transmission only fluid, not a motor oil type, because it's a lot more specific for the job.
The price difference for the motor Rex, it should work a lot better.
Oh, with the price difference, yeah. What do you put in your bike, Bob?
Rotella. Because
Would you steal it from my garage and you got it for free?
No. Because it's cheap.
It's cheap, yeah. There's lots of different oil choices. Does anybody here feel good when they change the oil in like a vehicle? Do you get a like good feeling when you change the oil in your truck or your motorcycle? I do.
You get a little buzz?
Yeah. So sometimes when I give it the good stuff, I get a better feeling, and it's not that much, so you can do that
Placebo
too.
power. It's a thing.
But it's hard. It's hard to tell a difference. Although there are certain specific things that you don't want in certain cavities inside the motor, just like yourself too. So now we're gonna have to go through the wormhole of lubricants. I didn't. Chris is lucky. Chris is. I don't see him in the room, which means he's watching the debates. He's probably yelling at the TV like I would be. Carlos Anglo says, haha, definitely, Chris Smith. I was just wondering what maintenance things to look for that I'll need to do besides being on top of filters and oil. I know if they push it way more than I will for sure, so it'll give me a better idea than what the manufacturer recommends. Work smarter, not harder. Now, use the manufacturer guidelines as the most aggressive maintenance plan. That's what I always say. Use it as the most aggressive maintenance plan you would probably have to use, unless you're ridiculous as a rider. You're doing something ridiculous. You shouldn't have to do it as much as the manufacturer recommends. If you want to feel really good, have that good feeling when you do the oil change all the time. Do it. You can do it like that. But when you take the oil out, look at it. I mean, you can rub it in your fingers sometimes. You can tell when it
talks to you.
Yeah, it talks to you. Look, the color helps. All these different things. So, we got any questions on that one there?
And here are paper.
On paper.
Michael Fraser. Have one on order. Curious to know what you guys weigh so I can gauge what direction I'm going to head on suspension settings.
That's a personal question, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. He was asking about, I think, the Honda CR450R video when Trevor and I rode it. So I was, at that day, I was call it a, I don't know, you want to call it wet or dry. Probably have to call me a dry weight at 200. Wet would be with all my gear on. It's probably a little bit more. And Trevor was probably 165 pounds. So that's where we were on that. Michael, I think I responded to him on the thing. And then one more there.
Roger Childs. That's one sweet Honda. All first-year bikes have little issues that will be fixed next year, but I would take this one now.
Right. He's talking about the new Honda.
Which one?
CR450R. So there, which I think Trevor went out and rode today. I didn't get a report back because I know we're still working on. There's the little pop at the bottom, and it's funny because some riders feel it. That's guys that lug it, really let the thing down lower. Some riders don't feel it at all. It's guys that rev it, ride it like a 250F. We're understanding that some bikes are different. Like some bikes don't do it as much as other bikes. It does it differently in different maps, but we don't have an answer. So we're hopefully not me. Somebody's trying to do some ignition fueling tuning to see if they can figure out what it is, and who knows? I mean, it could be a spark plug. Who knows? Jeffrey. Oh, and on to the little issues that will be fixed next year. Some of these little issues may be fixed by the time they hit the dealer showroom floor. I mean, they could go in and reflash ECUs and stuff like that.
Easy.
Some of them may be fixed like on a second production run. So from a first production run to a second production run, some of the issues are fixed. But if you watch over the history, if you watch a bike that has a life cycle of like 3 or 4 years, Honda usually goes 3 to 4 years before they make a big change on a particular model. By the third or fourth year when they're doing that, that bike is dialed. Because they've learned the little things. So when they change a little bit of this, like Kawasaki's going through that right now, where they changed on this year, they changed the clutch spring, and one other little thing they did. Oh, the handlebars. And I think they did something with the brakes also, like the rear brake pads or the brake pedal or something. But just it's 3 years old now, and I mean those little changes actually made the bike a lot better. Just little tiny things. And those are kind of things that just get dialed in. Sometimes they don't even tell you some of the stuff they do. They might find that, hey, if we, thin this engine mount out by, a tenth of a millimeter, it makes the bike work better. And they're not going to tell you that because they don't want everybody to think. But it's like, hey, there's a part number difference. Why is that? And you look at the two parts and they're a little bit different. Yeah, there's updates. So
Honda's really good too with that and their changes. And like if you look at the VIN number, you're like going through the microfiche. They'll say VIN number this to this, it's a Model E, and then this to this, it's a model, different letters, and so those would capture and encapsulate whatever those little mid-model changes. Honda does a really good job of doing that.
Yeah, and there's some other manufacturers that do it as well. And sometimes the manufacturers that just supersede the part. You just all of a sudden it's like superseded to this, and you don't know when it happened or which ones it goes to, or if it's an issue or not an issue. Sometimes, and people just get all bent out of shape. It's like, oh, they changed the part number, the oil filter, all the oil filter is bad. It's like, no, they changed the vendor. Or the country of origin changed, and like the fuel filters we were looking at. In the KTMs, the ones that are from Turkey and one from Austria.
Yes.
So little things like that, and that would warrant a part number change a lot of times on certain manufacturers. But speaking of fuel filters, so Trevor, in his KTM 250 that he's talking about, he raced, he started noticing it was losing power after we just did this rebuild and stuff. He said, I kind of think it's like losing power. And I'm like, okay. He goes, what do you think it's fuel pump, or what do you think it is? And I'm like, well, I have this cool tool that you gave me to check the fuel tester. Yeah. He goes, where is it? I go, well, it's in Nevada, and we were in California when he was telling us. And I go, so like, what is it doing? And he's like, well, it just felt like it was losing power. Like when you were on the gas, like it idles, starts up and idles. Yeah, it starts up and runs. Just, when I ride it, the more I'm getting on the gas, the more it seems like it's losing power. So his dad took his gas tank, because it had a dry brake on it, and put it on his 450 and went and raced, and their bike wouldn't run much over half throttle. And right there, just go, fuel filter. Not fuel pump. It's like that point I'm going fuel filter. And then he had already figured that, figured it might have been fuel filter. So he went and just replaced it with one made in Turkey, by the way. So we'll see how, I know you're not a fan of those.
Sketch for sketch.
Yeah. So, but anyhow, I said, do you have because he didn't check anything. He just switched it out. And I said, well, there's a possibility it has a leak in it. So like I said, plug it up and pressurize it and see if you hear it hissing, because a lot of times they crack and they have a leak and it's not plugged. It just can't build pressure that way. But I also had him blow through it in the direction that the fuel goes. And he's like, yeah, it's really hard to blow through. Plugged. And it's a dry brake, so they're dumping tons of dirt into the gas tank every time they fill it up, which is kind of an issue. So you just kind of back extrapolate. Like if it's a lot of times it's fuel, like the fuel pump seems to struggle all the time. Like it's kind of a consistent struggle, where the fuel filter is, as you need more fuel, it gets progressively worse. Like the fuel pump seems like it's and it depends on how they're going out. You know what the way that they're going out. Whether it's like kind of an intermittent run or it's just like they're sticking or wearing out. They'll start up and they'll kind of idle, but they don't idle that good. It's always kind of it's all over the place. It's just like it's changing. Where the fuel filter seems to be consistent, like it's higher RPM, no bueno. So okay, we're out of those questions, right?
We're out.
When any other Mike, you got any questions? You said you had a couple questions.
Yeah, I do have a couple questions. I have a really weird one here. We were talking about how the manufacturer will switch vendor in a run. So like on the KTM 500, on the exciter coil for the ignition, the stock ECU. So we had a problem where we had some GET ECUs that would, at wide open throttle, under certain periods of wide open throttle, so it'd be like, there were a lot of vectors. There were like temperature and then duration. But at wide open throttle, these bikes on GET ECUs, they would go into basically limp mode. And so you'd be like standing on it. You might be in a wheelie, whatever, but you're standing on it. And then the bike goes to limp mode, and then your power goes to like 30%. And as soon as your RPM dropped beneath a certain threshold, then everything would wake up and you'd have full power again. And so that's a big deal. That's a really big deal.
That's really bad.
Super bad. Okay, but then you take that same bike, you'd swap the stock ECU, ran just fine. So after, and you know, God bless Athena, man. They put a ton of time. Dan Truman, total badass, out of Athena USA. They really figured this out. And what it was is KTM had switched their supplier for that exciter coil, and some of the bikes. Now, not all bikes had this problem. It was you'd cherry pick out a handful. So if we had 500 GET ECUs out there on 500s, maybe 5%, hit and miss. And some guys never had this problem. And what it all came down to was the fact that KTM had switched vendors for that exciter coil, and the bikes that used so when Athena tested and built the firmware for that ECU, they used the bike that had brand A exciter coil. But if you put that GET on brand B exciter coil, that's the one that had the problem. So what they had to do was, on the race ECU, so on a stock ECU,
what was the exciter coil sending? I mean, because they don't do much other than just
the voltage fluctuation was
enough. It was different.
It was different enough that it fooled out the ECU, and the ECU said, "I don't know what I'm doing," and it just sort of like went into limp mode, and then it sort of came back online. And so what they had to do was, a stock ECU is sort of, its job is to wrap its arms around all these sensors, but then there's this wide variance that it has to be able to run with sort of a wide fluctuation as that bike ages, as those sensors sort of like lose their initial factory spec as they sort of drift
I
out
would
of
tell you
range.
about this bike that I had that let me down this one time. It was it's called I had that go out. So it's real weird. It's intermittent. It's like a lot of times it depends on the heat. Like they're real heat sensitive in how they work. So
anyway, that stock ECU was fine, but the aftermarket ECU, because it was so the tolerances the data that it was looking for was so tight. Basically, to fix it, I think they just widened out the look, and so they just made the look a little wider, and that was the fix. But to the point of these manufacturers will switch, and sometimes there's downstream consequences.
yeah.
The question I have is, do they run on millivolts? Is it part of the CAN bus system in the bike?
That's a good question. I don't have an answer for. I
mean,
doubt it.
Any
it.
little variation in millivolts on a CAN bus system will screw it all up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think that is the case on this.
Okay, I was just wondering. I don't know.
Yeah, and it's funny because I replaced out of that one bike, I replaced it with a different one because the one that I wanted was on back order.
You're talking about the exciter coil. Was that on a 250, 350? Did it explode and unwind itself?
No. It didn't come apart at all. It just kind of failed. But I was able to get, and the difference was that I could tell was the length in the pigtail. How long it was. But I've learned since then that there's like different voltages. They work a little bit different. I don't know specifically about it, but there's that's one of those things. It's like, man, that was a kind of a difficult one to diagnose. I thought it was just some of my wiring externally that was causing like an intermittent kill button kind of thing. So I think we've. Do you have any other ones, Mike, or is that it?
Yeah, there were a couple that popped in my little feed here. Let's see. So. Golden Reese, he says, have you seen issues with the oil? Oh, so he's talking about the KTM, the EXC bikes.
With the plastic oil gear.
Yeah, did you see that question?
Grenades every single time you ride, right?
Well,
Oh, No,
No, they
only
don't.
only every second time.
Yeah. So have you seen issues with the oil pump? Is it really? And so basically, he's like, is it an overblown issue? Is it really
Yes.
an issue? Or
No.
all the internet hermits? All the internet hermits seem to think so.
Okay.
How many
okay, I'm going to
actually
talk
have
about. Oh,
problems?
you got me wound up now. I'm going
This
to talk
is why
about
you're
internet
right.
hermits. So there were some bikes that did have some issues, but generally that's a downstream issue. There's another problem someplace else, like the metal gears that are meshing that are actually pumping the oil. Like the tolerance in some bikes was actually, and this isn't older. This is like 2008-ish time where. The gears when they would go out, that was a downstream
those
problem.
Worm gears. Is that what those are called? Worm
Yeah,
gears?
yeah,
Mesh gears.
Yeah, and they would start kind of seizing inside of the oil pump, and then that would cause the teeth to go. So they're like, oh yeah, they put aluminum gears on there, and guess what? The aluminum gears would fragment as well.
as well.
Yeah, and then it would start shearing the pins off the thing. So they've done their homework to.
These guys went to college.
Yeah, it's maybe. I thought they were just cavemen. They just chiseled them out, and it was way easier to chisel the plastic than it was the aluminum or steel. But they know what the forces are in those gears, and it's probably designed to be plastic. I don't know if it's a cost. I doubt it's a
I don't think it's
cost feature.
Isn't
It's
it like a circuit breaker? Don't you think it's if something's going to shear, let's have the teeth of the gears?
It could be, yeah. But anyhow, I don't think it's an issue. And a lot of times, you see when things fail there, it's some other problem that's causing that. It's not the gear failing. And
Gear's not. But
I've got hundreds and hundreds of hours on those gears, and
hard service hours too. You're not like going to grandma's house on these bikes.
No, but but I haven't. Yeah, mine are probably just special.
What about
They're
working?
scared of me.
Now, there's two sort of guys say they either break, shear off the teeth, or there's another sort of folklore, and I don't want to call it folklore, but I've heard stories of the gears warp. So that's a big diameter gear. So we're talking about like a 4-inch gear. And like a record, it's got a warp in it.
Right. if they get it hot enough to warp it,
They got other problems.
That's like I said, half the oil they're shooting at all the other things is probably not doing too good either. But here's the interesting thing about the guys on the internet. So let's just say that I was this guy that was riding this bike, and I'm riding it, and I'm the guy on the video talking about the bike while I'm riding it, talking about how it works. And I love it when someone makes a comment on the video and tells me that bike oversteers. They're like, oh, you can totally see it in the video. That bike's oversteering. They're telling me this. They've never ridden the bike. I have. They're watching a video, which is kind of funny because, especially with the wide angles of these cameras, the motion of the bike and the stuff you're seeing is way exaggerated compared to what's actually happening on the bike. But they're sitting there in front of their keyboard and they're absolutely possessed that the bike's oversteering. And I'm sitting there. It's like, well, if you would have really paid attention when we were talking about it, we talked about the tire, because they're blaming it on the bike, and I guess the tire is part of the bike, so it's all one piece. But it's like when Trevor and I were talking about this, we both said the characteristic of this tire for both of us is to cause a little bit of steering issues, not necessarily oversteer. By the way, it's both. We just aren't very confident on that tire, and so but the internet pundits are absolutely convinced that they can see in the video that it's oversteer. Just like, somebody posted a picture today, I think it was on your thing, where it looked like somebody shot a fork tube with a 45, put a dent in it.
I think I saw that.
Yeah.
They dinged their chrome tube, their down tube.
Oh, it looked like somebody shot it with a 45. It had a nice dent in it.
And so what was the question like? Is this usable, reusable, or?
Yeah, it said, I think my fork seal's leaking or something stupid like that.
Do you think this is the cause?
Yeah. Oh, it's a warranty issue for sure. I mean,
the manufactural stem.
Yeah, the chips came, chip of the coating came off or something, or it's because it's an open cartridge fork. You knew that, right? Or it's an air fork. Maybe someone was testing to see how much air was in it. I don't know.
It was a pressure bulge. It was a hernia. Okay, so here's another one here. This guy.
This is our last one.
You want to cut it off here?
We'll cut it off here unless you got a really good one. What's a good one?
Let's do this one.
Okay.
There was another one about a GPS, and maybe we'll talk about it some other time. So this guy wants to know, is it suitable to turn like a 450 XCF? So he's talking about that's the trail bike versus the YZF 450 FX. Okay, those are similar bikes. Or any other off-road type machine, 450 specifically. Is it possible and wise to turn one of those into a good Baja touring bike? Is the 6 gear that big of a thing? Is that really the major consideration holding it back? I'm talking about taking some long distance Baja type rides. What do you think of that?
That bike would be fine. The Yamaha 5-speed transmission is fine.
It's wide.
It's good. It's not huge, but it's good.
That fifth is really tall,
It's
right?
fine. You could drop a couple teeth in the rear. In Baja, you'd be fine. The KTM, you could put a 6-speed in if you want to. We have a thing on our site
right?
Yeah, we have a thing on our site that explains how to do it. But other than that, the motors are the same as kind of the ones that are sort of
basically.
designed to do that. But it's just kind of like that question. Everybody's like kind of looking for that perfect unicorn bike, and unfortunately, your needs are specific to you, and that's why the aftermarket exists to kind of allow you to tune your bike that way. So. We'll just, you just keep asking us questions. We'll tell you you're out to lunch, and you should just.
It's your problem.
You should buy a KTM, right, Logan?
Yeah.
Yeah. What's KTM? Oh, you weren't ready for this, were you? Caught you off guard. He's texting. He's getting his phone's blowing up. So those little girls are wondering why they're not getting their phone calls.
Why'd you answer my text?
Okay.
Their KTM is based out of Mattinghofen, Austria, and North American headquarters in Murrieta, California. KTM has set the standards for motorcycle manufacturing and development. KTM has provided a ready-to-race mentality in every product it develops and every move it makes, and has been a fierce competitor on the racetracks around the world.
And I would like to thank also Rekluse. I would like to thank Climb and DDC helped us out today. Taco Mike, thanks for coming by. Taco Moto Co. Don't put the M on the end.
It's not tacomoto.com.
Just Taco Moto Co. He can help you out with your KTM EXC and Husky FE needs for sure. Probably no Gas not making street legal bikes, are they?
I don't think they're.
Nope.
The rumors are that they're not.
Yeah, and we will. I think that's it. I was gonna say I'm gonna sign off with one thing because everybody's like falling asleep here. Mike Zabirik, Mike Zabirik. I got it perfect. It's the question. Could Trump hold the Husaberg 570 wide open, or would his wig fly off? And with that, we are going to end the show. Cheers, everybody. We'll see you out on the trail. Hey, Logan, that was a pretty good show, huh?
Yeah, it was.
Did you learn anything?
Yeah.
What was that?
I need to get a Rekluse on all my bikes.
All your bikes?
Yeah.
Which one first?
Probably the YZ250F.
Why is that?
So I worry less about my clutch and worry more about my riding.
So we're going to see you in the expert class pretty soon, yeah?
Hopefully.
Right on. So if you need more information about Rekluse clutches, where do you go, Logan?
Go to www.rekluse.com. That is Rekluse spelled Rekluse. So for Jimmy Lewis, this is Logan Tyler, and we'll see you on the next show.